Hi fashion lovers, you're welcome to another tutorial video on my channel. This is Bepel Stitch. So in my last tutorial I posted a video on how to cut and sew an halter neck jacket, and today I'll be sharing with you guys how to cut and sew the shorts that I paired along with the jacket. Without wasting much time, let's get started. So to cut out the short, I'll start by drafting on my pattern paper. Then I'll be drawing a straight line at the top of the paper like this, and this line is going to serve as the starting point. So from that line I'll be measuring my short length, which is 17.5 inches, but since the short is going to be having a 1.5 inches band, so I'll be starting my measurement from 1.5 inches on the tape, and I'll be marking 17.5 inches, and I'll just mark an horizontal straight line across that part, and that line will be the short length. The next thing is to measure my flap measurement, which is 11 inches. I'll also be starting from 1.5 inches at the top, and I'll mark down 11 inches, and I'll be using that point to make an horizontal straight line across, and that line will serve as the flap line. So now the next thing is to measure the hip line. So from 1.5 inches on the starting point, I'll be marking down 9 inch for the hip length, and I'll be making a point right there and also connect those points as an horizontal straight line. So now that we've marked all our horizontal measurements, now it is time to mark the vertical measurement. So I'll just go ahead to label all the lines, and this is my hip line, this is the flap line, and that right there is the full length of the short. Then I'll just be using my ruler to mark another line for the allowance of the short. So I'll label that line allowance, and that is all for the horizontal measurement. Now the next thing is to mark my vertical measurement. So on the hip line, I'll be marking my round hip measurement divided by 4, which is 10 inches, and I'll also mark the same 10 inches on the flap line and the waistline as well, and I'll be using those points to mark a vertical straight line. Alright guys, the next thing now is to mark my crouch curve. So on my flap line, I'll be marking my lap measurement divided by 2. So there are two methods to get your crouch curve. You can simply divide your round lap measurement divided by 2 and mark it on the flap line, or you can just add 2.5 inches after the hip line on the flap line. Now from this corner where the hip line and the flap line meet, I'll go up by 1 inch, then I'll just connect that point back into the hip line with a nice curve, and that will give us our crouch curve. Now the next thing is to mark my round waist measurement. So I'll just be placing my tape on that hip line that I marked earlier, and I'll just mark my round waist measurement divided by 4 right there, but I'll be adding extra 1 inch to it. So for me, quarter of my round waist measurement is 7 inches, so with extra 1 inch allowance, that will make it 8, and from that point I'll just connect it down to my hip line using my straight ruler. Then I'll be using my curved ruler to blend that part to give it a natural curved look. So the next thing I'll be doing right now is to come down to the full length, and I'll be marking my round knee measurement divided by 2, but I'll be adding 0.5 inches for stitching allowance. So my round knee measurement divided by 2 is 10 inches, so I'll be marking 10.5 inches plus the half inch sewing allowance. So I'll also be marking the same thing on the allowance line as well, and I'll connect it as a straight line, and I'll also mark a straight line to connect the crouch line to the length of the short. After doing that, the next thing now is to come up to the waistline, and from that line I'll be coming down by 1 inch, and I'll be connecting it into the side with my ruler like this to form a slanted line, and I'm just blending the line so that everything flows smoothly and there won't be any sharp edge. So the last thing we are going to do on the short now is to give it a little bit of shape. So now on the allowance line, I'll be going in by half an inch. Now the reason I'm doing this is to give the short a nice fitted shape so that it won't just be straight on the body. So after marking the half an inch inward, I'll connect it smoothly back into the hip line, and that is what will give it our curved and natural body shape. So after doing that, I'll just label the pattern as the front, and I'm just going to be cutting it out. Alright guys, let's move over to cut out the back. Now what I'm going to do first is to mark a starting line at the top, and I'll also mark a starting line at the side, just like the way you see in the video, and those lines will serve as my guideline. Now when placing my front pattern on the paper, I'll make sure I leave a little space at the top before positioning it. Then I'll align the front pattern with the vertical starting line and pin it down at the side so it stays in place. Then the first thing I'll do here is to extend the flap line straight onto the back pattern paper. Now from that extended line, I will mark out 2 inches for my flap extension. But if you are working with a bigger size, you can mark 2.5 inches or even 3 inches, but for me 2 inches is just perfect. So after that, I will come up here to the waistline, and on this waistline I'm going to be extending it by 1.5 inches, and I'll connect those points as a straight line down to meet the crouch curve, just like the way you see me doing. Now once that is done, I'll be connecting that 2 inches point into this new line that I just marked to form my back crouch curve. So guys, make sure your curve is smooth and not too sharp for the back curve, because if the curve is too deep, the short will be too tight at the back area and you won't even be able to sit down or raise your leg up. Now the next thing I'll do is to go to the waistline of the front pattern and extend it upward by 2 inches. Now the reason I'm adding these 2 extra heights is to create enough coverage for the buttocks. So if you're on a bigger size, you can go with 2.5 or even 3 inches, especially if you have a bigger buttocks, but for me 2 inches is just perfect. And from that 2-inch point, I'll be drawing a slanted line to meet the side seam, and that will be the back waistline. So I'll just be connecting this hip line up to meet the line that I just marked to make everything sit perfectly. And the next thing I'll be doing is to extend this round knee measurement by 1.5 inches as well. Then I'll be connecting those points to form a line to meet the crouch curve at the top as well, just like the way you see me doing in the video. And after doing that, the next thing is to trace all the lines on the new paper and cut it out. So after cutting it out, I'll just label this part as the back, and I'll be placing it on my fabric to cut it out. So here is what I have after cutting it out, and you can see that I have some allowance at the crouch area and this other side as well. Because this fabric is a patch fabric, I cut out a lining piece as well to cover the roughness, and I'll just be pinning the lining together with the fabric like this, just like the way you see me doing in the video. I'm pinning it all around to hold it in place, and then I'll go ahead to stitch it down on all the sides. So guys, don't stress about making the stitches perfect at this stage, because the lining's job here is just to cover the inside and to make it look neat. So I'm just going to be stitching on all the sides, and I'll simply repeat the same process for the other 3 pieces as well. So here is what I have after joining the lining together with the fabric, and you can see that all the roughness is now hidden inside. Now the next step is to cut out the pocket for the shorts. So I'll be using a different fabric entirely for the pocket. Now the reason is because my patch fabric will not be enough, and apart from that, if I use the patch fabric, the inside will be looking too rough, and I don't want to add lining since that will make it too thick. So instead of that, I'm just going to be using the plain Ankara fabric. Then I'll use the patch fabric as a facing so that it will match with the outside. So to cut out the pocket, I'll be folding my fabric like this into 2, then I'm just going to fold it again into 4, because I'll be cutting the 2 pockets together. For the length of the pocket, I'm working with 10.5 inches and the width is 7 inches on fold. So I'll mark 10.5 inches for the length and cut it out. These are the 2 pockets right here, and I'm just going to measure 7 inches for the width of the pocket, and I'll be marking the point right there and I'll cut it out. And the next thing I'll do right now is to give the pocket a sort of curved shape at the down part. So I'm just going to take the 2 front pieces of the shirt and place them together like this. Then I'll be going in by 2.5 inches on the waist towards the hip side. Then I'm just going to be coming down by 7 inches from the waist as well and make a point right there. So at that 7 inches point, I'll notch it in about half an inch inward. Then I'm going to be folding it in a slanted manner to meet the 2.5 inches at the top. And I'll be pressing it down with my iron to make it stay in place. I'm doing it this way so that fixing the pocket will be much easier. After ironing, I'm just going to keep one of the front piece aside and work on one for now. So this is the pocket here, and this is the facing that I talked about earlier. So I'll open up the fold that I made earlier, then place the pocket on it like this, making sure that the open part of the pocket faces the hip side while the closed part faces the crouch area, just like the way you see me doing. So I'm just going to open up the pocket like this, and I will be notching it right on that 7-inch point that I notched on the shorts. Then I'm going to fold the pocket together with the shorts the same way I folded it earlier. So I noticed that the pocket is a little bit longer than the short, so I'll just go ahead and trim out that side to make it equal. then I'm just going to be folding it neatly like this and press it with my pressing iron. So on this part right here that I'm demonstrating, I'll go ahead and top stitch it to hold both the pocket and the short together. So I'm just pinning it in place to hold it together so it will be easy for me to sew on it. So this is what I have after stitching on it, and you can see that the pocket and the short is now together. So on this smaller part on the pocket, I'm just going to be folding the edge like this, and I'll go ahead and top stitch it as well. Before that, I'll take the facing and place it on top of the other part of the pocket like this, and I'm just going to be trimming out the excess like this, and I'll be stitching it all around. But for the inner part, I'll be folding the edges like this, and I'm just going to top stitch on that part. Now the reason I'm folding that part is to make it neat at the inside as well. So I'll pin it in place and take it to my sewing machine to stitch it down. This is what I have after stitching it down, and you can see that everything is now looking put together. So I'll flip it over and close the pocket like this. Then I'm just going to turn it to the right side, and I'll be stitching on that 7-inch point like this, and I'll also stitch the upper part to hold the pocket and the shorts in place. So here is what I have after stitching it down, and you can see that the pocket and the short is now together. So I'm just going to flip it over to the other side like this. Then I'll notch right below that 7-inch point that I top stitched earlier. After notching it, I'll put my hand into the pocket and pull it to the other side, just as you see me doing. Then from that notch point, I'm going to be stitching it all around the curved edge to close up the bottom part of the pocket. Then I'm just going to turn it to the right side and iron it with my pressing iron. So you can see that the pocket is now neat at the outside and at the inside as well. So this is how to just fix your pocket. Then I'll repeat the same process for the other part as well. I've already fixed the pocket on the other part as well, and this is the two front piece on the table right here. So the very first thing I'll be doing is to join it at the crotch area, but since this shirt is going to be having a zipper at the front, I'll be leaving about 7 inches before I start my stitch. So I'll be marking 7 inches on the crotch line, and from that point I'll be sewing it all the way down. So I'll just keep it aside for now and work on the zipper flyer. So these two straps here is what I'll be using as the zipper flyer. So I'll be working with 10-inch length and 1.5 inches width on fold, which means that when I open it, it will be giving me 3 inches. So I'll go ahead and join the two front piece of the shirt at the crotch area before attaching the flyer to it. Here is what I have after stitching it down. So this is how yours should also look like as well when you open it. Now to attach the zipper to the shirt, I'm going to open the shirt at the front like this, and I'll be placing the zipper on top of it, just like the way you see me doing, making sure that the wrong side of the zipper is facing me and the right side is facing the right side of the shirt, which means that the zipper will be in between the shirt and the flyer. So I'm just pinning it with my pin, and I'll stitch along the edge to hold them together. And once that is done, I'll show you the next step. So here is what I have after stitching it down, and you can see that when I open the zipper, this is what it is looking like. Now for the other part, I'm going to be attaching just the flyer to the shirt alone, and I'll place the flyer on the shirt like this and stitch along the edge. So for all the stitching, I started at the top and I stopped at that 7-inch point that I marked. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing for this flyer as well. After stitching, this is what I have, and the next thing I'll be doing now is to fold it in like this and press it down with my iron. So the next thing I'll do is to arrange everything properly, making sure that the zipper is inside, and I'm just going to be placing this part that has only the flyer on top of the one that has zipper, just like the way you see me doing, and I'll be making sure that this one that has only flyer is overlapping the one that has zipper so that the zipper won't show at the front. So I'm just going to be using my pin to pin it down, and as well use my iron to press it down to make it flat. So after pressing it down to make it flat, the next thing I'll do now is to open this part that has only the flyer. Then I'm going to turn it over like this and hold the flyer together with the zipper, and I'm just going to go ahead and stitch the zipper together with this flyer, just like the way you see me demonstrating in the video. So that way we've joined the two parts of the zip together with the shirt. Here is what I have after joining it together, and you can see how it is looking. So I'll just use my pressing iron to press everything together to make it stay in place. Now the next thing I'll be doing now is to turn it over to the front, and I'm just going to be using my chalk to mark below that 7-inch point. I'm just going to be marking a curve right there all the way up, just like the way you see me doing. So this mark mark I am making right here is where I will be stitching on. But before stitching on it, I'm just going to turn this part over like this, and I'll be separating the two flyers like this before stitching on it. The reason I'm separating these two flyers open like this is for us to have an open zipper by the time I top stitch on this line that I demonstrated just now. This is what I have after stitching it down, so I just went ahead to top stitch below the 7 inches point to hold the flyers together so it won't just be separating. You get, can you see that nothing is covering in between the zipper, and at the same time the two flyers are joined together at the down part? And that is all for the fixing of the zipper. So now the next thing we are going to do is to join the back piece of the short together with the front piece at the side. So I'll start my stitch from the upper part of the short, and I'm going to be sewing by 1/2 inch on both sides. So here is what I have after joining the front piece and the back piece together at the side, and you can see what it is looking like. So now the only open part is the back crotch area, and that is where we are going to be closing up everything. To mark out my waist measurement, I will be closing my short like this, and I'll place my tape at the middle of the zipper, and I'm just going to mark my round waist measurement divided by 2 on the back crotch, which is 14 inches. So I'm just going to be marking 14 inches right there and make a point. Then from that point, I'm just going to be drawing a line all the way down to meet the crotch curve. So I'm going to be stitching on that line, but I'm not going to stitch it all the way to the end of the crotch curve. I'll end my stitch about 0.7 inches before the end of the crotch curve. So here is what I have after joining it together, and you can see that our short is already coming up little by little. So I'm just going to open up this allowance part of the back and use my pressing iron to press it down flat, just like the way you see me doing. So guys, for clarity purpose, I also left about 0.7 inches before the end of the front flap as well. Now the next thing is to close up everything at the lap area. Now I'll be aligning the front and the back together like this, and I'm going to be stitching right from the crotch area down to the round knee, just like the way you see me demonstrating in the video. And I'm going to repeat the same thing for the other part as well. To close up everything together, I'm just going to be opening the same allowance, just like the way you see me doing. Then I'll be stitching on it like this as you see me doing in the video. This is what it looks like after joining it together. At this point, I was already loving the outcome of the short because it is almost ready. Now to just hem the down part, I'll be folding it in like this, and I'll just go ahead and stitch it all around. So now we're just going to be working on the band. So for the waistband, I'm going to measure what I have around the waist like this. Then whatever measurement I get right there, that's what I'll be using to cut out the band, but I'll be adding extra allowance to it. After I measured all around the waist area, I got 32 inches, so I'll be adding extra inches to it. So I have this straight piece right here, and that is what I'll be using for my band. The 32 inches that I measured around the waist of the short, I'll be applying it on this band here, and I'll add about 4 extra inches to it for the allowance, and that will make it 36 inches. So I'm just going to be cutting it out. So these little straps is what I'll be using for the belt hole, and I already made 5 of them, so I'll be explaining what I'll be doing for the 6th one. So the length is 4.5 inches and the width is 2 inches. So I'm just going to be folding the two sides like this and fold it again. Then I'm just going to top stitch the open side, and that is how to form the belt straps. For my waistband, I actually cut out the width of 5 inches, which means that when I fold it, it'll be giving me 2.5 inches. So at first, I plan to use the band width of 1.5 inches. If you remember from the beginning of the video, that was what I deducted when I was measuring the length of the shorts. But along the line, I changed my mind to go with 2 inches instead, just to give the band a little more height. So don't worry, if you have already used 1.5 inches, you can still follow along. It's still the same process. So I'm just going to be folding in 1/2 inch on one edge of the band, just like the way you see me doing, and I'll be using my iron to press it all the way down. Then from there, I'll be making another big fold of 2 inches, just like the way you see me doing. And this small part that is not folded yet, that is where I'll be stitching on to join the short and the band together. So here is my short, and the first thing I'll be doing on it is to mark the point where I will be placing the belt straps. So from the center front, right by the zipper flyer, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches and mark that point on the waistline. Then I'll do the same thing on the other side too, and that is where I'll pin the first 2 straps. Then I'll go to the side seam of the short and I'll add another straps on both sides. Then for the back, I'll measure 2 inches apart as well and pin the 2 straps there. So that will be making it 6 straps in total. That means I have 2 at the front, 2 at the sides, and 2 at the back. So this way the straps are balanced all around the short, and when you pass your belt through it, it's going to sit neatly without dragging one side more than the other. So after pinning all the straps on the short, I'm just going to go ahead and stitch on it to hold it together with the short before stitching the band on it. So I'll be marking 1 inch on all the straps, and from that point I'll be stitching it together with the short. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim out all the unequal parts, but I'm going to open the zipper first before trimming it. So after I must have done this and joined the belt straps together with the shorts, I will now go ahead and attach my band to it, just like the way you see me doing. Now to attach the band, I'll start from the wrong side of the short, then I'll place the band over the edge of the flyer like this, and I'm going to be stitching it down right along that allowance space that I left earlier. So I'm just going to be stitching it all the way from this point to the other end. When I got to the other end, I noticed that the band was a little bit too long for the short, so I decided to like trim it a little bit. Then I'm just going to fold the band over the flyer like this to cover the edge to make it neat. That way both sides are properly enclosed and looks neat from the outside. The next thing now is to go ahead and stitch on it from the beginning to the end. Then I'll bring it back to show you what to do next. So this is it right here. When I finish stitching on it, then the next thing I'll be doing right now is to fold it over like this to the right side of the short and stitch on it. So I'm just pinning it all the way from the beginning to the end for the purpose of this tutorial actually, because if I was to sew this alone, I will just go ahead and stitch it without pinning it. So after folding the band over to cover the short and stitching on it, the next thing I will do is to attach the belt straps. So I'll just sew them at the upper edge of the band, just like the way you see me doing in the video, and top stitch all the 6 straps in place. Then I'm just going to mark this part for the button O. After that, I'll move on to the M and I'll measure the length of the short and fold the bottom neatly to finish it off. Then I'll go ahead and stitch all around it to make it stay in place. Then finally, I'm going to fix my button on it, and that is all for the making of this fitted short. I know you would have learned 1 or 2 things from this video if you've watched up to this point. So please encourage me by clicking on the subscribe button and also give this video a big thumbs up, because it will really help my channel and I will truly appreciate it. So after sewing everything, I'll just go ahead and press it down with my pressing iron to make everything neat and smooth. So we've actually come to the end of this video, and thank you so much for watching. Bye. I'll see you in my next one.